Talkin Money. And here's Jeff Tarbell.
This would be an awesome skating song.
We're not going to go there, are we?
Chris, you missed all the disco skating talk last week. Are you a skater, Chris, too? You want to go to our skating party?
No. I did see a lot of interesting text messages when I came in later, though.
Chris, I would pay hundreds, if not near $1,000 to see you skating, but it must be in what were the pants I was talking about last week?
I was trying to remember the name.
The Angel Flights.
Angel Flights.
Nice.
Yes.
Got to be the Angel Flights, the petroleum product-based pant. So 339-1140 is our number here in the studio. 1-800-920-1140. Don't get me started on that whole stuff again. We'll get all kinds of weird texts. So hour number 2 always starts out like hour number 1 does, from the mind of Christopher Lott. Although in hour 1 he is free to discuss whatever interests him. In hour 2 it must be on world politics or geopolitical events or whatever he wants. Go ahead, Chris. What's happening?
Okay, we have a presidential election coming up, and according to everyone, each candidate is going to have to raise up to $1 billion each. $1 billion each. And that's not even counting Senate races. That's not counting Congress races. That's just for the president. And I don't know about you, but for $1 billion, I will do close to anything. So these guys are bought and paid for. There's definitely some sort of law that we need to create to just stop this madness, because it is absolutely out of control. And I don't even know what the point of voting is anymore. It's just bought and sold, and we are all just in the middle of it.
So leave your headphones on there for a minute. As you're talking, I was frantically digging through my bag because I've been carrying this around now, 2 of these for about 3 weeks. One of them is an article, which we can get into or not, I don't care. Talks about who foots the bill when a president, I don't care which president, is flying around in our plane campaigning. And you can, I'm sure Bush did it. I'm sure the Bush before him did it. I'm sure Clinton did it. And Obama sure as heck is doing it. But there is a huge question about when you're flying around in a plane that I believe is something to the effect of $55,000 an hour. Operating costs, I think is the number. Does the campaign get billed for that, or does the U.S. taxpayer get billed for that? So there's a big question about trying to come up with a better accounting for, So if you fly out to Colorado and you give a 15-minute speech on student loan debt, and you spend 3 days raising money for your campaign, what are you really out there doing? So I'm interested in your comments if you want to jump in on that. But I think there's got to be something. We are getting hosed again as a taxpayer. I don't care which president is in the plane there. I think they need to start writing a check for that little bit of that. Maybe in the last 6 months, if you use the plane, it's on you, not on us. We'll see how. Maybe they'll just be doing a lot more conference calls rather than live events. But Chris is on to something. He doesn't know it, but he's actually a genius. So I tell him that all the time, but he doesn't believe me. So you talk about the amount of money that is spent on a political campaign and who are they really going after. And the Wall Street Journal did a phenomenal job of laying out states and areas that they know are already going Republican no matter what you do, or are already going Obama no matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you say, no matter how much money you spend there. They're either voting left or they're voting right. And there's only 130 electoral college votes, if you will, or points, that are considered toss-ups. And that's it. Out of the entire country, these are the states that are consistently a toss-up. And so why travel around the country? Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Nevada and New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin. So those are the states that are consistently can go either way. Everybody else has already made up their mind. You think California is going to vote for Romney? No. If you split California from everybody from the east side of the valley over, and the rural counties, Romney would win in a landslide. If you take out San Francisco and L.A., Romney wins. You leave it, but all the people live in the Bay Area and in L.A. So there's only 130 points. So I don't want to hear any more political ads from either one of you. Don't even bother coming here. We already know. So Chris is on to there. So Chris, you're a genius. Good point. But here's my quiz question for you, Chris, because nobody else would get this one. Here it is.
Can I get an iPad?
You can.
We'll give you the box, Chris.
You get an iFinger. You can use this finger to buy your iPad. Which ex-NBA star is the worst NBA executive? And I'll give you some names to consider. So,
I already know.
Okay, go
Michael
right
Jordan.
ahead.
Michael Jordan.
Interesting, but you would be wrong.
Oh, really?
Your geniusness has dropped right out the bottom. So what they did was
What does this go by?
Well, they're going by, first of all, it's executive, not a coach. So someone who is an NBA star. They went by their win percentage as an NBA star versus their win percentage as an executive. Now, I'll give you the bet. Jerry West is the very best. So his win percentage as a player was .613, and as executive for the Lakers and the Grizzlies, although the Grizzlies are going to pull him down, but .629. So I will give you some names. You tell me out of the names. Michael Jordan is on the list, and he is number 3.
Really?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So I'll give you some other names out of order. You tell me which one of these it is. Joe Dumars, Kevin McHale, Wes Unseld, Isaiah Thomas, Chris Mullin, Elgin Baylor, and Larry Bird.
I'm going to say Isaiah Thomas.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. As Isaiah Thomas, number 1. As a player, his win percentage was .566, and as a executive of the Raptors and the Knicks, .347. And right behind him, very, very close, was Elgin Baylor, Michael Jordan, Willis Reed, Wes Unseld, Chris Mullin, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, Joe Dumars, and Jerry West was the very best. So there you go. I would have done that one on the air because nobody would have got that one. So if you want to jump in, we got a couple lines open, 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. I did want to bring up a couple items from our earlier caller. We were talking about, making an offer for sale by owner property and how do you value it and some different things. So I mentioned just at a glance this article about, stunned home buyers finding the bidding wars are back. And each of us can probably attest to having a client who, finally, I don't know if they got up the courage or they got up the gumption or they got up the money or they finally decided, okay, I'm going to buy a home, only to find out they get out there and they just get slaughtered on the bidding process by, Kent Smith walks in and gives them $200,000 cash, and John walked in and gave him $205 offer with financing, and they're like, just give me the $200,000 cash. So it's tough. But you start looking at the bigger problem is that there's not a lot of inventory. And whenever I tell this to somebody who's just watching the news and not in the industry, they're like, what are you talking about? I said, there's no homes to buy. There's all kinds of homes. There's like 4 million homes that the banks own by themselves, right? And no, I mean there might be, but they're not on the market. If there are,
for sale,
right?
You looked at the Sacramento Bee had an article this week. Fewer homes lost in the region, and the article says foreclosures dropped by 28%, and so you start thinking, well, wow, things are really getting good. I mean, nobody's going into foreclosure anymore. But what it doesn't say is that they all went into short sale. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not getting to a foreclosure process anymore. So a short sale is, I think the banks have finally discovered, taking a while, a short sale is better for them than a foreclosure. They get more money, they get it quicker, and they don't have to manage a vacant property that's getting the copper stolen out of the unit. So when you see an article like that, foreclosures are down, you have to understand what that means. They just haven't gotten that far. But the short sales are down also, and the number of properties. So you take a look at this. Nationwide, in 2012, the inventory of homes for sale is equivalent to about the market level at about 2003. So getting back down there, just about 2.25 million homes on the market nationwide, and it does make a difference by market. So you look at, for example, Long Island and New York, the New York area has about 16 months of supply. Okay, you start to get that's about average. 18 months is what they kind of like to see. Phoenix, Arizona, 2.4 months of homes. Wow. I mean, it's a 60 desk.
Wow.
They don't have any homes. Washington D.C., 3.4. San Francisco, 3.4. Seattle, 3.8. Miami and San Diego, 4. There's hardly anybody that has even 6 months worth of homes on the market right now. That would typically be a seller's market.
Yes.
We talked about it in the first break of the hour today. Why aren't prices going up? It's in any other time in our history, if you told me Well, San Francisco prices are going up a little bit. San Francisco is an anomaly. You give me a market that says you have less than 6 months inventory, I'd say, man, I hope I'm a seller. I can get my price, and there just aren't enough homes right now. And then those that are being sold need financing. They need an appraisal, and they're just not getting them. They're not getting them. You look out even out in the area that where I live now, and even on some of the prices that on the higher end homes where you start looking out in Placer County where the acres gets a little bigger and the houses get a little bigger, and you start looking at prices from $500,000 to $1.5 million. And even out there now, some of the agents are saying, you want to price your house properly. It doesn't mean if your house is worth $600,000, you ask for $9 million, but you put your house, if you have a clean house, put it on the market, it will go.
Yeah.
It will go if it's properly priced. So, I think in our area, people start saying, well, I wish the market would turn. I think the market has turned. And my question again, and John and I have been trying to track one down for a few weeks, is we're trying to get a new home builder in here.
Yep.
Why aren't new homes taking off? I don't get it.
There's a lot more talk about them, though. They're definitely coming in.
So either they're not priced in the sweet spot yet, or people have convinced themselves that you can go steal a deal, on an existing home. But why aren't? I mean, if you're a builder right now and you're building $250,000 to $300,000 homes, if you can do it, and that's why I want to bring a builder and see if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think, okay, I got bid out on 6 houses now. Why don't I just go over to this guy and have him put in the color carpet I want? There's some value to a new home. I don't get it. I don't understand why that market is not taking off.
And it should be, or it will. I mean, the other day at the Mortgage Insight, we heard, what were they saying, 17 million new homes in the next 10 years that we're going to need, housing-wise?
Yes. The 17 million new home owner units. So basically families being created that need homes over the next 10 years. 17 million people coming up. Now, what we didn't discuss at that event, and what the number that didn't come out, is how many are going out of the home market. Either you've got a population that's aging faster than the new ones are coming on, so you've got people that are passing away, getting out of home ownership and going into care units, downsizing into smaller houses. So you have that influence also. So I don't know what the net tangible benefit will be, but that's a lot of people coming around.
There's a need.
The only thing I can think of about new home sales is that where do new home sales occur as a general rule? For the most part, they're not downtown. There's not a lot of infill stuff right now. So they tend to be, our caller earlier was from Yuba City. So back 20-something years ago, before I got in the mortgage business, I was a land developer. And I stumbled into Yuba City at 23 years old, still in, just out of college, and started looking around at land prices, and I was, looking at pieces and bought some property there and did some development there because it was such a phenomenal deal, just beautiful neighborhoods. And you look around and going, man, we can develop a lot. We can sell these to builders at a reasonable price, but they can sell a new house for $150,000 to $180,000. When in Sacramento, they were, going up. Everything was going up. So what drew people to Yuba City? Some people wanted to be there because they wanted to be in Yuba City, but a lot of people went to Yuba City because they couldn't afford to be in Sacramento. What's the lakes out there in Plumas County, or Plumas Lakes? Another good example of an area that was, just rapid fire appreciation because of its proximity to Sacramento and what you could get, and that market's been decimated.
Right.
And you want to go back to find a beautiful house now for a price, and Plumas Lakes is a steal. But people are looking around going, dude, I don't want to drive 99.
You got to get a Prius.
Yeah. or a street bike.
There you go.
And it's like, okay, with all of the prices that have come back down, so you force people back down into the into the neighborhoods and downtowns and in the developed subdivisions and developed areas, they can afford to be back in there again. So that's probably what maybe one of the downsides to the new home construction might be. So what I want to do is I want to take a break, and when I come back, I want to talk a little bit about how do you turn one of those existing homes into your own new home, because that's where I think the next step is going to be for our first-time buyers. And I think we used this last week on the show where I had a client who's just has to be geographically in this window, this square, because of schools and other things too. And he's looking around and saying, yeah, hey, Jeff, if I could afford $500,000, I could find anything I want, but I have to be, under $300,000. So I'm finding stuff in the twos and I'm getting outbid left and right, or I'm finding a big piece of crap. And then I told him, well, if you like the neighborhood and you like the structure of the structure of the house, but it's just junked out, what if I could help? What if I give you the money to fix it up? And, his eye was like, what are you talking about? And I said, I give you the money to turn it into what you and your wife want it to be, reasonably speaking.
Sure.
But I said, what would it take to turn, so you've seen 3 pieces of junk. What would it take to turn those into something you'd live in? He said, about $50,000. I said, well, you're qualified for $300,000 and you're looking at that house was $200,000 or $215,000. So $50,000 and $250,000, $260,000. So if I could sell you that house for $260,000 in the way you want it, would you buy it? He said, tomorrow I'd buy it. Well, let me introduce you to the 203K program. I mean, this is what it's for. It's to get these things off the market. So we'll talk about that when we come back. You got another quiz question to do? The one there with the circle there. Yeah, that one's amazing.
Yeah, let me see if I can properly say this. So there's a few big companies out there: Microsoft, Google, HP, Dell, and half of Yahoo. Their market capitalization combined is what of one company?
Yeah, so they're equivalent. So read those. So these companies, if you add up the value of all these companies he's reading, they together equal one company. That's our quiz question. What company do they equal? So
and these companies are Microsoft, Google, HP, Dell, plus half of Yahoo.
So one other company has the equivalent market capitalization, if you will, total value, to all those combined. 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. My name's Jeff Tarbell. That's John Fodderero. That's Kent Smith. And we'll be
right back.